Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Veryn and I am here today to do a VR to Lisa and Peggy Papez's tarot tag, hashtag 21 tarot questions. So first, I apologize if you can hear the buzzing. I truly hope you can't. It has been going on literally all day and I need to film, so we're just gonna try and power through and hopefully this footage will work. Hopefully. Anyway, during their Sunday shenanigans, which was last Sunday, and I'll link it up above in the cards, the playback of their lives is very good, I personally find. Peggy started coming up with like a tarot question tag personality thing, and I wanted to take part. So there's 21 tarot questions, and I have my decks off to the side here in a bin, and we are going to go through them. And we're going to start with something that's probably not very surprising. Number one is the deck you would have to pry out of my cold, dead hands, and that is my Star Seeker Tarot. I love this deck so very much. I use this all the time. This deck, I've talked about it in several tags. I talk about it in almost every tag. This deck, I've had it for, I think, going on 2 years now, I think. And it's just stellar. Not only do I use it for a ton of my work with clients, but I use it regularly for myself. And not only that, but I find it is such an intuitive, easy reader for me. I adore the images. The guidebook is phenomenal. It has opened my perspectives on several of the cards. This deck is just top-notch. I need to get a backup copy because I use it so much. And to be honest, you'd have to pry a lot of my decks out of my cold, dead hands. This is the one I am the most afraid to lose, which is why I ended up picking it instead of some of the others. One of my favorite Hierophants ever. Look at that. So that's the Star Seeker Tarot by Nikki Ferrata. Highly, highly, highly recommend. The pocket edition, last I saw, looked like the images weren't properly sized down, so I'm not going to get that. But that's, you'd have to pry this out of my cold, dead hands. Number two is the Guilty Pleasure deck. And this one was a bit hard and confusing for me. So what cinched it was something that you have that you really love, even though it's not necessarily held in high regard for others. I don't feel a lot of guilt over the pleasure I get from this adorable little Ganeshian Village Tarot. So what really sold this as this one was the factor that it's not a popular deck. I don't see people talk about it. I've only ever seen it come up in like one video. Now granted, I might not just be in the know of a lot of tarot circles, but the only video I ever saw it come up in was literally Lisa's video. And that's who I bought this deck from. I bought this deck. I snatched this. As soon as Lisa said she was getting rid of this, I snatched it. So this deck brings me a lot of pleasure and joy. I adore it. I've now actually used it for readings. Works well. It's fairly standard. It's just so adorable, and I don't see people talking about it. So based on the definition of guilty pleasure, of something you enjoy that other people don't necessarily hold in high regard, it had to go to the Ganeshian Village. And like, come on, bag match. When I have tarot bags, most of them are from Peggy's shop, and Peggy is the person who created this tag. I will put a link for her shop in the description box down below. Her quality is fabulous. So that's the Ganeshian Village Tarot, and I don't think this is one you can get really anymore. I'm not 100% sure. It might be out of print. Yeah. Anyway, number three is a deck you wish existed. This was hard because, like, I can't think of a lot of things. I don't often have times where I'm like, man, I wish this deck existed. I do wish there was an astrology deck made to my specifications, so like I'm hoping to do that myself one day, because I'm a bit of a picky bitch about astrology. Other than that, though, I would really love a Phoenix themed deck where so Lisa's designing and creating the Unicorn's Journey Tarot, where it's a journey with the unicorn the whole way through. I'd love something like that, storybook kind of deck for Phoenixes. So yeah, that's the best I got. Number 4 is a deck you would give to a new reader. And this one I'm cheating and I'm going with 2. First of all, the more standard answer is a tarot deck. And for me, that's the Tarot of Oneness. And there are several reasons why. 1, I love the perspective on this. There's something about the fact that it's first person. This really brings me into the feeling of the cards. I adore it. 2, it's extremely good quality. Like a lot of decks, I'm very hard on decks, and this one isn't wearing as badly as some others are. It does warp a little, but it's really good quality. 3, here. The way, because it's first person perspective, and because of the way it's designed, the whole thing is very gender neutral. It's very open and inclusive, because underneath this dress, the person could have any skin color. That might not even be a dress. It could be a man wearing a dress. It could be a non-binary person wearing a dress. It could be a woman wearing a dress. It could be anyone. But they've also renamed the majors. So the majors go, boop, inspiration for the pages, action for the knights, spirit for the queens, and embodiment for the kings. So, and they've renamed them in a way that's completely open as well. So this deck truly is about as inclusive a deck as you could get. Because most of the time, there's not a lot of signs of you as the person in the deck even. It's just the fact that you're looking out. Like here you've got a bit of it. But it's so open, and because it's first person, I find it so easy to feel even the cards that I struggle with. And that's the other thing with the way the court system is done here. Those are cards that a lot of people struggle with, but because they're first person, I find they're not as hard, because the word inspiration, that tells me a lot, right? So here, this deck is just phenomenal. And it's very, very, very understandable. Like here's the 5 of Cups. You're looking out a window on a dreary day. So this is my tarot deck. I also though wanted to talk about another deck, because it wasn't specific on a tarot thing. It wasn't specific like what's a deck you would give to a new tarot reader. It said a new reader. And I had a thought. I would want to give this to a new reader. This is the other deck that truly you would have to pry this out of my cold dead hands. I'm terrified of not having this deck. Same with the there's a few. Listen, I like my stuff, okay? This deck, this is the Songs of the Grandmothers, and it is the Kickstarter edition. This is astounding. So it's an oracle deck, so it's more open. Here's why specifically though I would want to give something like this to a new reader, and truly to everyone. This is me coming from my place of, I'm a person with religious trauma. I'm a person who, first time I heard of tarot, my first thought was, oh, that's evil. Even though I had no conscious knowledge of tarot and what it was. It was extremely hard for me to get out of my own way when I started to feel called to tarot, and it surprised me when it did, and it scared me, and there was a lot of emotions wrapped up in that. This deck is extremely gentle, even when it is not. Like, here's one of the not so gentle cards. Grandmother Volcano, change. There's no turning back. What was once before, now not. Demarcation point. So not only is this a super easy reader, there's lots of information on the card. There's a beautiful picture, and they're painted. Mari's work is painted very emotively. Like, you can feel the emotion. It evokes emotion within you. So I guess evocative is the correct word. It says what the animal is, it gives a keyword, and then there's a little poem. So even just that, you can get a lot out of it. So it's a very easy reader, in my opinion. It's very clear. It's comforting. Not in a we're gonna lie and tell you everything is fine when it's not fine kind of way. It's like the person who holds you while you cry and says, this really fucking sucks. Now what are we gonna do about this? This really sucks. Life is bullshit, and that's gonna happen, and let's figure out our way through it. Let's not get stuck in the sadness, but let's not dust over the hard things. This is exactly the way I want to be held. I think this, for a reader who's just getting into reading, I would recommend this hands down. Because it is so beautiful, and it is so perfectly done, and it is a great welcoming start. And the other thing too is it doesn't have the same connotations as the tarot. So like if something like this had been around when I was first drawn to tarot, perhaps my journey might have been a bit easier, because a deck like this allows me to feel more comfortable and confident in this part of myself that is drawn to tarot, this part of myself that I've been taught is unacceptable. So for that kind of acceptance factor, this is a safe space to explore the things that people might want to explore with card reading, but it doesn't feel so scary. It turns you off, or you don't do it, if that makes sense. So I wanted to make sure to talk about that too. I would give this to a new reader 100%. I would give it to anybody. I want another copy just in case. Like I adore this deck. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. Yes. Okay. The next one is one you want to get along with, but it never clicked. This is my Believe in Your Own Magic, and I still truly do not know what I'm going to do with this damn deck. Because I've now had a lot of, like, I now have a history of rehoming and then reobtaining. I don't know. And I feel very, very out of touch with the person I was when I purchased this deck. So I suppose I can also count this as the deck you keep just for the art, which, like, I don't really do very much. I got this, oh goodness, Christmas 2020, and I've used it once. This card, God, I love this card so much. I've used it once. I've tried to use it more, and it just doesn't, it falls flat. And I don't know if that's just because I haven't found the right way to use it. I don't know. But I saw this, I loved it. I love to see bigger bodies here. And I don't know if it's the gender aspect now. These are all very femme presenting people. I don't understand what it is. I love it. I love it so much. So actually, this deck could also work for a later question, love in theory, but not in practice. I love it, but I don't, it's never really clicked. And like, I feel things when I hold it, but I can't seem to figure out, get it to work using it. I don't know. Don't know. So that's the Believe in Your Own Magic Oracle. Which it does pair very well with the This Might Hurt Tarot. Anywho, the next one is actually a deck you only keep for the art, and this is hard. And this is a so far. I only keep it for the art right now. I reserve the right to change this. And essentially the way I looked at this, because like I don't keep decks just because I don't tend to keep decks just because they're pretty. If I'm not using something, I tend to try and let it go, except for the fact that like sometimes I do use things then later. Like my Tarot of the She I got it the same Christmas as this. It took me until just this year before I fully started using it, and now I'm like obsessed. But I always was drawn to keeping it because I loved what the deck was, and I loved the art. This one, essentially right now, the way I picked this was, right now the only reason I still have this is because I love what the deck is and I love the art. And this is Dame Darcy's Witchy Cat Tarot. What really threw me with this was I didn't realize it didn't have a guidebook. I love this deck. I love the ridiculous art. And I say ridiculous with lots of love. I love that it's quirky, it's beautiful. And I don't use it. I love my bag match. Hello. Hello, bag match. Yes. But every time I look at it and think, maybe it's not for me, I look at the art and I go, no, it's mine and I love it. It's pretty. So I hope that will change and I find the way to use it. But for now, this is Dame Darcy's Witchy Cat Tarot. It's hanging on by the skin of its pretty little teeth, and that's because of its pretty little art. So there's that. Number 7. What did you buy? Because everyone else did. I think I've talked about this. This is the Chicoli Tarot. And it's actually not even mine anymore. I bought this. And now granted, I was having a day. I was having a really bad day. It was the day I found out a friend died. And I bought this and brought it home and looked through it and immediately, and I bought it because like Lisa got it and it was such a good like unexpected thing for her. And then I love this little elephant though. So Lisa got it, and then it seemed like everyone was getting it, and I wanted that kind of experience, and I bought it. And literally, immediately, I was like, I got it home, I looked through it, and I was like, yeah, this isn't mine. It's still here because it's my wife's. She loves it. So, I'm holding all these decks. I need to shuffle occasionally. My wife loves this, so she's the one who gets it. So, I bought it. Everyone else bought it, and I wanted it for that split second. And turns out I just wanted it because everyone else did. The Chicoli. Okay. A deck that is over my head or baffles me. So far, that's the Anatomy of the Witch Oracle. Now, I'm hoping this will change. I'm hoping this will change. I was going to do Elephant in the Room, I was talking about and had started a book club, a deck and book club with this, and that fizzled. It did not work. I love the art of this. Some of them I really get. I don't know how to use this. Laura Tempest Zakroff's work is stunning. I love it. It is extremely cerebral. So I'm concerned that this deck might just be a bit too over my head. It might be a bit too this deck, trying to understand this deck brings me right out of my body and directly into my head. And that's not always a good thing for me. So I'm unsure. I really hope that it changes. I love Laura Tempest Zakroff's work. Her book, Weave the Liminal, is my top recommendation for beginner witchy peoples. So yeah, but there's that. Okay, the next one. A deck that surprised me. My Somnia Tarot. This surprised me on multiple levels. It surprised me because I saw it and I thought, oh dear God, no. And yet here I am holding it. So it surprised me when suddenly I thought, fuck, I really feel called to this deck. And it surprised me when I got it in my hands. And truth be told, there's a later question. A deck that gives you the willies. This one kind of does. So it surprised me that I wanted it. And the reaction I have to this deck surprises me. I'm not quite ready to talk about that. But I have a very strong feelings and reaction when I hold this deck. It's very specific. The type of work I want to do with this deck is not work I ever imagined that I would want to do. Wow, this is kind of pippish. I never realized that, really. If you had asked me a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago for sure, I never would have this deck, not the evil factor, but this deck kind of embodies a lot of things I've always feared about myself, that I was always taught to fear. So this deck, I haven't worked with it a lot yet. I won't lie, I'm afraid to. I'm fucking terrified to work with this. Not in like a bad way, because I'm also really drawn to it, but in a I don't know where it's gonna take me kind of way. So I think that means that this really fits the bill of a deck that surprises me. The Somnia. Okay, next up, a deck that doesn't work, but I keep for the collectible. Yeah, that I don't really have. I don't have a deck I would class as like collectible. Maybe I'm being too literal. But I don't really have a deck that I keep for the collection's sake. So Pass. My favorite gilded deck, however, is my Alice deck. This deck is fabulous. I love the art style so much. It's a good reader. Love, love, love. But the gilding. The gilding on this is fabulous. It's not sharp. It did shed at first when I got it. It leaked all over, but I love that it's kind of glittery. And it doesn't hurt. It's very smooth. And I'm very hard on my decks. And this one isn't super chippable compared to others. Like, I have some other decks that I've gotten more recently than this. And they just, the gilding starts to wear right away. So I love this one. This one. I also do really like the colored gilding on the Seasons of the Witch decks. Love that. Okay. And now, this is one of my biggest disappointments. A deck I love, but I hate the cardstock. If you've been here before, you probably know. This has been such a disappointment, which makes me really fucking sad. Because I love this deck so much, but I can't get over the smushy cardstock. And it's not just that it, like, it's not just that it's smushy, but, like, I haven't used this much. And look, it's kind of like the backs are rubbing off. This is the Boo Tarot. This was one of the biggest disappointments because I love the art so much. I love it. It's adorable. The sparkly ghost, it makes me so happy. But the quality of the cardstock is fucking terrible. It's so much so that as soon as I, like, tried to shuffle it, I realized how terrible it is. This is one of my favorite strength cards. And I don't use it. I do, like, I'm trying to get used to using it just hand over hand. The reality is, though, I really like shuffling, so I don't tend to remember to pull it. And this deck, it makes me, I get mad and sad every time I see it and look at it because of the shitty cardstock. I hate it. I'm hard on my decks. Gentleness is not a word that I understand when it comes to using my body, so I'm just terrified I'm going to damage it, so I don't really use it. It's the Boo Tarot. Okay. Number 13. The deck that gives me the willies. I mentioned the Somnia does kind of. Also the Chicoli does kind of. The Hayworth. The Hayworth Tarot. Pass. My fave Shadow Work Death. It's a deck. It's a tie. I can't pick one. It is my Wisdom of the Shadow Oracle. This is fabulous. I use it regularly. I've talked about it. It's really good. The only thing that really gets me with this is some of these shadow work cards don't really seem super, like, inner child. Well, I mean, I get that, but Courage. That throws me off a bit. So some of them for me, Soul Care. Some of them just throw me off. Wisdom. But I guess it's because those aren't my shadows. And, you know, that's okay. But the Wisdom of the Shadow. And then the one that ties with it is my El Goliath. This deck is absolutely fabulous. and I love it, and it's shadowy, and it's a gut punch, and I still haven't learned to use it super much, but I don't care. I feel it so strongly when I look at it that it's mine. It's staying. I wonder if this would work well with the Somnia. Oh. We're just going to look for a second. The art style doesn't go, but they feel very similarly evocative. Interesting. Anyways, I probably won't use them because, like, the way I feel called to use the Somnia is probably a lonesome thing. Anyways, so that is my 2 favorite shadow work decks. I do use the Tarot of the She with the Wisdom of the Shadow, but I wouldn't necessarily class that as just a shadow work deck. So that's why it's not here. It almost was, but then I realized I wanted to talk about it somewhere else. So yes. Okie dokie. Next, we have a deck you love in theory, but not in practice. This is my Moon Oracle. I adore this bag, and I still have not... I love this deck so much. I love the artwork. I love the fact that it's got goddess cards. It's also got... and like goddess cards that I'm familiar with. It's also got Moon Mansion cards. And I did use this. This did work. And then I used it for someone else, and then it stopped working. And I haven't used it since. I use this deck a lot. I used to use this for all my moon work. So I'm not sure if it's something I just like grew out of. I love this deck. I love the fact that it's built around the room, and the fact that I love that so much, and I'm a Cancer rising moon baby, is the reason why this deck has not gone anywhere. Because I'm determined to try and find a way to use it, but in practice it's not doing its thing. At least hasn't in like 3 years. So, goes to show how stubborn I am. The next one is a deck I never used to read for others. This is my Cosmovisions. And, like, currently we're on the outs. I was using this for, like, ancestor work. And then I started to feel my ancestors in... Well, first I started to get the idea that maybe I would use this deck more this year because this is, like, it's a death deck. The whole idea of this is going of the journey of rebirth. I love that it has its own system. I love the color palette. I adore this deck. It's not going anywhere. I'm not currently using it. So I was using it for ancestor work, and then I got the feeling that, like, maybe I'd use it in some way for my death card year this year. And then I got the Gentle Tarot, and I started to really feel my ancestors through the Gentle Tarot. And then so this one, I stopped using it, but I've never used this for anyone else, and I won't because it's mine. This is special and sacred, and I'm not sharing it. because it's mine. Another one you'd have to pry out of my cold dead hands. And we've been on quite a journey of, I always find a new way to use it because I didn't get it for ancestor work. And then I thought it would connect to something else, and then that didn't work, and then it moved to ancestor work. So this deck is, it's fine. Okay. One I would never use to read for myself. I don't have a deck like that. I use all of my decks to read for myself because, see, aforementioned, I'm greedy. A deck I could not bring myself to buy, both the Literary Tarot and the Alleyman's Tarot. I saw them. They're a really cool concept. Everyone was really hyped about it, and it was super cool. But it just, I couldn't do it. They just weren't for me. My favorite pip deck, I don't actually have many pip decks. So, for now, one of my favorite decks, a pip deck that I would get, or one of the first ones I would get if I get a pip deck, because I'm not big in the numerology super yet, is the Antique Anatomy. The last actual deck to show, the one that slaps me with the truth, that's where my Tarot of the She comes in. I adore this deck. It's the edging I did, which I love. This deck is fabulous. I've had some really intense realizations doing shadow work with this deck. And I also, though, find it comforting. And this deck is, I love it so much. It's so good, and it's such a good reader. Now, it's hard to pick one deck that slaps me with the truth because not only am I greedy, I'm also very stubborn. And so, in order for spirit, or however you'd classify it, to communicate with me, it kind of has to slap me with the truth, or I just won't hear it. This Ten of Wands. The Ten of Wands is a card I get a lot, so seeing this image made a huge impact on me. Yeah, so it was kind of hard to pick because a lot of decks slap me with the truth. All of my decks have to inevitably slap me with the truth. But this one, some of the moments I had with this, it was a truth I never saw coming. It was deeply buried. So that is why this one takes that title. The Tarot of the She. Such a good deck. And it goes really well with the Wisdom of the Shadow. And then the last one is the deck that got away. For me, that is the Healing Waves Tarot. I love that deck. I want that deck. I still want that deck. I didn't have the resources to be able to get it. I missed out on, I didn't realize it was on Indiegogo and was never going to be anywhere else, and I fell madly in love with it, and I didn't have the resources. I thought I'd be able to get it later. That didn't happen. I would be thrilled to somehow get my hands on a copy of that deck. However, the prices it goes for, I don't expect that to happen. So I've resigned myself to the Healing Waves Tarot is just the deck that got away. And that's it. We are all done. Yay! This was a lot of fun. I know my voice was kind of monotone. I just don't have a lot of spoons for masking today. But I'm going to let you go here because I got to go and pick up my kid from school very soon. So I hope you will make sure to check out Lisa's video where she did she did this tag. It's lots of fun, super easy, and I love it. Thank you, Lisa and Peggy, for the tag. And I will thank you all for watching, and I will see you all very soon. Lots of love. Bye.